Hello, everybody. My name is Stefan, and this is this screencast series I do where I talk to people that do cool stuff on the internet. And today I'm really excited that I have JD with me. Hey, JD, how are you
Hi,
doing?
doing good.
So, who are you?
I'm John-David Dalton. I am a open source contributor. I work at Microsoft on the web apps and frameworks team for Edge. That means I do a lot of ecosystem work. And one of the things I do as part of that work is work on the Node ecosystem, because modern web applications that run in the browser begin with Node. And so
Heard
I
about
work
that.
on, so I work on one of the projects that I'm going to be talking about today is a standard ESM loader. And that enables EcmaScript module syntax in Node 4 plus.
Huh. So, Node cutting edge hipster stuff.
Yeah.
Cool. So, and the loader lives actually. Let me share my screen first so that you see what I'm doing here. You see yourself?
I do.
Cool.
Hey.
So that's the project here.
Mhm.
When did you release it initially?
I released it back in August, I believe, and I had been working on it though since March. So it's almost been a year now of putting in code commits. I've done at least one commit to the project every single day since I started, and so it's got over 2,000 commits, and now almost 50 releases.
Oh wow! Every single day. How do you make this in your daily routine?
I've been doing daily code for the last 4 years, and basically it's if you have time to like do a crossword puzzle or like read a newspaper. I treat open source work as kind of like that. It only takes about 15 minutes or 20 minutes a day. Sometimes it's more, but that's all it takes just to keep a steady flow of work going, so the weekends aren't overrun with tasks and programming things to do.
Yeah, you have to build this habit, right? And then it works by
Yep.
itself at some point.
Yeah, it's like exercising.
Cool. And I, as a Node developer, why should I care today about ECMAScript modules?
All right, so EcmaScript modules is the module syntax that is built into the language. So it's the native module syntax that will exist everywhere that JavaScript is supported. And so this is a transition from what Node's module syntax was. Node has a module syntax called commonjs.
Mm-hmm.
Exports, the exports object, the require function. And the native module syntax, or ESM, for ECMAScript module syntax is slightly different. It instead of it being functions and objects that you interact with, it's syntax that you interact with. So instead of a require function, it's the import syntax. Instead of the module.exports object, it's the export syntax. And so it's syntax versus library code. And ESM, the ESM loader here, you to that new syntax.
Okay. So wanna just give it a try?
Sure, yeah.
Cool. So I prepared a little demo project here. So this is just a really, really tiny project. It includes a package JSON, nothing in here.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a index file. And
Right.
this requires another JavaScript file. And this is the commonjs thing you're talking about, right?
Right, correct.
Yeah. So it brings in a dependency which has a function that is called do something, really heavy calculations going on here.
Yep.
So number 1 through 3, subtracting and adding them. And then there's another dependency which is called dep2, which then includes these kind of functions. So I
Right.
already saw in the repo, okay, I have to install it like that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's npm namespaces here, right? Is it?
Yes, that is.
That's cool. We should all do that, I
So
guess.
yeah, yeah. So I grabbed the standard namespace.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's install that. And
All right, that's it.
let me just check on what Node version I'm actually running here.
Oh, okay.
Node 9.
That'll work.
Is there any plan on ECMAScript modules in Node at some point?
Yes, and so ever since Node 8.5, I believe, there is the experimental modules flag that will allow you to have partial support at the moment. But the standard ESM allows you to not only follow what Node's roadmap support is, but also dial it back a bit so you can do things, so you can more easily transition to that new system.
Okay, so in best case, this means I can run with the loader until it is supported, and then I just drop it?
Yeah, and so normally what you want to do is wait for you normally don't, as a package author, you normally don't produce code for just one version of Node. It's usually for the LTS version of Node, so the long-term service version. And so that, in this case, is Node 4.
Yeah.
And then there's Node 6 and Node 8 and Node 9. And so that whole range is supported. So for Node modules to support EcmaScript syntax, this new module syntax, it'll be about a year to 2 years out. So that's why something like this loader is handy, because it allows you to adopt without having to ship 2 versions of your code, and you can continue to use that syntax.
Got it. But that means that you're also ready that your project will be abandoned in 3 to 5 years in best case.
It could be. And that's fine too. There's also the new module syntax for Node is opinionated, and some devs have strong opinions. And so as we'll get into this example, I'll show you some options you can do to tailor ECMAScript module support to taste. And so some people may still want to use the loader at that point just because they prefer a certain style.
Okay. Makes sense. I heard about these opinions these people have.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so now I did the installation with --save, which means that I've got it running here.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not on a major yet.
Not yet. And so that's actually going to happen fairly soon now, because I've just about got all of the stability issues out. So then we'll go 1.0 probably within the next 2 weeks. So then it'll be more easy to adopt. Right now I've got a lot of early adopters, and they have helped so much with stability and finding all kinds of bugs.
How's the adoption so far? I mean, I saw it and I was like, everybody was like, yeah, we can use it today. What do you think?
Yeah. So right now there's over 150 packages depending on it, which impacts over 500 packages in the ecosystem.
Okay. That's not too bad, man. That's good.
No, it's not too bad.
Okay.
Considering it's new.
Okay, that doesn't load here. Okay, but let's just dive in. So I've got it now running. So we can start our journey here now.
Yeah. So I guess we'll transition to the new ESM syntax.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
So what we'll want to do is change the require statement to an import statement. It looks very similar to what you've got. It's import, but then it's some module. So import some module from, and then the dep1.
So, and now it's like that?
Yep, that's it.
I played with modules a little bit, and what I discovered is that I usually had to define absolute file paths and stuff.
So in this case, we'll start with the minimum change, and so that should work.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So I could now already run that, yeah?
Well, okay, not just yet. What you'll want to do is configure this. So we're going to start with the commonjs interop in place, just to show you how easy it is to get started.
Yeah.
To do that, though, you'll want to opt in to commonjs interop. So for your package.json, let's add an options field. Do you prefer putting options in a package.json or in a separate, like, RC file?
Let's go with the package.json.
Okay, sure. So then you'll want to add the key standard ESM. So it'll be at standard ESM as just the key. Yeah. So we've got it as an object. So we want to make sure that that's the key. See how you have on line 9, you have it creating a new object.
Oh,
yeah, you want to nix that. There you go.
It's already late. Okay.
No worries. And then from here, let's start with just simply specifying a string value of CJS. as the value. So that right now 9 you have it beginning an object. So now it's just going to be standardesm, the key, the value is going to be string, or sorry, the value is going to be CJS.
Okay, got it. So you're saying that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, CJS, right? CJS. Right now that's CSJ.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Okay, so what this is doing is this is unlocking commonjs interrupt support. So normally standardesm follows the node rules for the roadmapped ES module support, and by that I mean you have to have files ending with the .mjs. But since we just want to do a quick transition, you can enable this commonjs interrupt mode, and now you can use .js files, and it will just work. So now with this option in place, you should be able to run that import statement, and it will work. Let's see how you're going to invoke it, though. Right now, you have your index here. Based on the README, if you're going to want to distribute this to another package, you're going to want to change your index.js to create a commonjs bridge. Else, you'll want to invoke it with the node as a node flag. So in our case here, this is your index.js file. Let's go ahead and make this the bridge.
I'm not sure I understand the concept of a bridge here.
Okay, so let's look at the README.
Okay.
And then go to getting started. At the very top, there it is. So the first way of enabling ESM is with a CJS bridge, which is where you require the loader and then you export your file.
Okay.
That way. So basically, this is allowing you to export a EcmaScript module directly.
Okay. So I copied that. I placed that here.
Yeah.
And now this stuff has to go somewhere else. No.
Well, so you're wanting your. Let's go ahead and create a new file called main.js, and that's going to be where your application logic is going to be.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
So like that.
Yes, there we go. And then in your index.js, you just point to your main.js. So see right there where it says main.mjs? Yeah, just there you go. And in your main.js, if you wanted to export something, you could. Right now, we're not exporting anything, so there's not going to be a default property to export. But
yeah,
in the index.js, that's what we were doing, is we were forwarding it along. But now that's fine. Cool. So now you should be able to run this.
Oh, okay.
So if you go node index.
Let's see. Options.
Let's see what happens.
Options not defined.
Oh, it's from the copy paste from the README.
Index. Okay.
Yeah, see where the there we go. That should do it.
Sweet.
Ta-da! Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty easy. All it is you require the loader by one of the 3 ways to do that, and then you reference your ESM module, and that's it.
Okay, so I see. So these are the 3 options you just talked about, right?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So, for example, if you're writing unit tests, you'll probably do like the R flag instead, node R, and then require your stuff inside npm test. But since you're wanting to give your module to other people, you'll want to do the CJS bridge, because that way they can run node 4 and consume your ESM code.
Got it, understand. Can you maybe give me a few sentences about this MJS extension? I assume a few people haven't seen this.
Sure. So Node's roadmapped support for EcmaScript modules, they are going to key off a file extension. So Node keys off file extension already. Behind the scenes, whenever you try to load a .json file, it will recognize that it's a .json in the file extension, load it, and then parse it with the JSON parser and return you the parsed object. Same with .js. JS is the default extension. So when you try to load something and it can't find an extension, it defaults to .js. But in Node, .js represents commonjs. So commonjs is that syntax with require and module.exports. So they needed a new file extension to be able to key off of to enable the new EcmaScript module syntax. And so they've chosen MJS. Now there's some debate over extension is really needed, which is where the standard ESM allows you to unlock options to detect EcmaScript syntax without using an extension. So in our case, in the example that we are working on, I've enabled commonjs interops, so it'll work with .js files as well.
Got it. Yeah, it's a hot debate how to bring in the modules into Node land, right? I followed three months ago and was like, oh my god, let's see if we figure that out at some point.
I've sided with making it align with Node, their current proposal as close as possible by default, but then making it very easy to customize, which is why setting one option allows you to completely change that.
Got it. Cool. So we've got the project. This is a bridge here right now. We've got our main thing requiring something.
Yep.
And then let's have a look here. So this means that I could now also change this line, right? Because we're set up completely. So this is then import, basically the same thing, more or less.
Essentially, just add, subtract, and then change the require to from.
That's too easy here already.
Yeah.
Cool. So
so now we have the exports too. So let's change the exports. Yeah.
So then this is export. Do something.
So that you're going to have to export a function name or a. There you go. Yeah. That'll do it. Or you could say like export const equals do something and then have it be the arrow function too. But
yeah,
that's fine. Yep, and that should do it.
Okay, second try. Boom.
Okay, what has happened?
Doesn't provide an export name default.
Default. Okay. Oh, I see. You're right. We don't. So if we go back to the source file. We need to export, we need to export that as a default. So you need to say export default function. There you go. Okay.
Do something. And then we're coming from here. Somewhat.
It's dep 1. So dep 1, let's look at dep 1.
Dep 1, it expects an object. Yep. So it's export default, and then we need an object. I'm not writing EcmaScript modules every day, so I'm a little bit struggling here.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
So it's something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Here we go.
There we go.
Nice.
Great.
Cool. And then we have the last file here, which is dep2. Bam. Yeah, and basically we could just do the same here, right? Like that. And then we move these buddies in there.
Yep.
Let's see if this works. Doesn't provide an export named, so it will be
named add. I see. So it is different. Your syntax is slightly different. There we go. Yep.
So it's like that, and this is
subtract.
And a minus here. Oh. Next try. Sweet.
Hey. All right.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So it's a minimal loader that then allows you to support this new syntax, and it works in Node 4 and up. I chose Node 4 just because that's the current long-term service support. I mean, the code itself could run in earlier versions if I wanted. So
yeah,
it's a pretty sturdy loader.
Okay. So my main question now is, how does that work, man?
Okay.
And why does it work?
All right. So yeah, sure. I'll show you. So let's start back at your index.js file. and then I'll talk it through there. Okay, so what we're doing first is requiring the standard ESM loader.
Yeah.
And what that returns is a function that accepts a module object and an options object. If you don't provide an options object, it reads the options from your package.json or a .esmrc file.
Huh.
Right, and so what this function does with the module object is it uses that module object to give it context. Whenever you're in CommonJS and you require something, the require function has the context of your module that you're in, so it knows how to resolve paths. It knows where to walk to search for modules. And that's what this module object does, is it allows me to create a new require function that is capable of loading ESM files. So that's what's happening. You're basically creating a new require function that doesn't touch Node at all to load these files. It goes through its own loader pipeline. So it's staying off of the CommonJS pipeline. And what that does is it processes the file. So in this case, main.js. It parses that file. Because we have CommonJS interop on, it looks at the contents of the parsed file to determine if it's an ES module or not. How it does that is it looks for an import, an export, or a use module script directive. So because your main.js has an import, it then classifies it as ESM. And then what it does is it does a quick transpile. So if you're familiar with Babel,
Yep.
Babel does a pretty heavy transpile. In this case, all we're doing is transpiling the ESM syntax. Node itself has 99.9% of ES6 syntax. It's just missing the module import export.
Yeah.
So that's all we provide. So it's a very quick transpile. We cache the code, and then so for subsequent loads, it's instant. And then it runs in the background as CommonJS. So even though to you it looks like ESM, under the hood, it's still CommonJS. So if you want, I can show you the cache files it generates.
Sure.
Sure. So let's look at the node modules folder.
Yeah.
You'll see a .cache folder. Now this .cache folder follows the convention that Babel uses, Ava uses, and NYC. So Ava is a unit testing library, NYC is a code coverage library, and Babel is a transpiler. They all use the .cache folder. So
yeah.
I've created the same thing. You can see here that it looks like an underscore and a hash and then some library code there. What that actually is a reference to the runtime library. So the runtime library is the thing that actually handles your import, your export modules to communicate with each other with this syntax. Every time you save a file, it generates a new hash. If you notice, your AA9 is also in the file name, in the middle of that file name, AA9. There. So it's using MD5 based on a file path and the options you've provided to create a unique variable name. Now, if you were to try to create this variable name in your project to try to get access to the library, every time you save the file, a new hash is generated, so that variable name shifts. So you can never grab the variable name. If you try to, the variable name itself has a zero with joiner in the variable name. So it's not actually underscore AA9.
You're kidding.
There's an invisible character in that variable name.
That means...
So you can't accidentally grab it.
Ha!
Yeah. That
is so cool, man.
So what that does is that avoids the possibility of conflict. There's almost no chance you will collide with this variable name.
Yeah,
no one wants to mess with hidden characters.
Yeah, I rarely use a zero with joiner when I'm writing code. I have to say that.
Yeah, it's not intuitive, right?
Yeah,
so, this is how I avoid leaking the library code to the end user. So the end user sees it and it feels native. What you'll notice above that library code is a comment there. Well, you'll see main. What does main mean?
Yeah.
So main, in later versions of Node, they are optimizing their file load helpers. And they optimize it to load JSON very fast.
Yeah.
But the thing is in newer versions, they will discard the contents of their load if the JSON does not have a main field. So they do a check for main. So what I do is I throw in this harmless main string, so the fast file load will continue to return results. So this is a way of me being able to just load files fast using a Node internal.
Got it.
So that's all that's for. The next thing, though, is metadata. And this is data about the parsed file that I can extract and then use when loading the file. I might save that later on in a separate .json file, but for now it's embedded in the source code of the file. You may be also looking at that going, that first line is a doozy. It's got a lot of stuff in that first line. And that's because standardesm does inline replacement.
Yeah.
So it doesn't shift your source code. It keeps it on the same lines, and that is because it allows for source maps to be used on this for in-place. It simplifies the generation of source maps essentially because I don't have to map different line numbers. So what happens is if you're debugging, so Node has a inspect break flag.
Yeah.
And when you use that with standardesm and launch Chrome to debug your code, it will automatically generate a source map for you. So you'll be able to be using the Chrome dev tools to inspect your code and still see it as EcmaScript module syntax. You won't have to see the stuff underneath it.
That is super cool. I didn't even think of that. That you need source maps now, maybe because.
So it auto generates them for you, and because the source code is inline, it's pretty simple, pretty fast to generate. What's also nice is that variable length, that underscore AA9, is actually chosen at that length because later on you can do things like dynamic import. And that library call...
Dynamic import is this buddy here, right?
Yes. And that library call is the exact character width of dynamic import. And so that means that more times than not, your character indicator will actually align perfectly too, if you're not on the first line. I also mask error messages. So when an error happens, you hopefully don't see the library code. You see just the syntax code, and it's complete with the arrow indicator and all of that stuff too. So there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes to make it just feel native.
Yeah. So
you're not staring at library code.
Well, I have to say I'm a little bit impressed here.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
So that's the gist of it. I've gone through it simulates error messages. It simulates the module resolution differences between ESM and CommonJS.
Yeah.
It masks things. It even does a two-form load, a two-pass load. And what that is know up front what modules you're requiring and what identifiers you're exporting before the module is executed, which is different than CommonJS. CommonJS finds everything out when the module is actually executed.
Yeah.
But because when I transpile, I also store metadata there, I know upfront by looking at the source of the file exactly what is being executed, what is being imported, what is being exported, and I can validate path resolution before actually executing the code. A more proper shim or polyfill for EcmaScript module syntax.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks really, really sweet. Anything else you wanna share about this project?
So the README has a nice video link where I talk about some of the internals, I go down the history of syntax, the differences between the roadmap and the ecosystem, and so basically why we had to use the CJS option. And I cover some of the things like performance and some of the challenges I've had while implementing the module loader.
Sounds great. Where's the Thunder Plains conference?
Thunder Plains conference is in Oklahoma City.
Okay. Far away from Berlin, Germany.
Yes, correct.
Okay, cool.
One of the other things that's nice about this EcmaScript loader is that it's very small. If you look at your node modules folder for standardesm, you'll see that file is very tiny. It's under 100 kilobytes.
Huh. You mean this one?
That's it. It's even less than that. The main loader is that .gz file.
Why is this gzipped in here? Where is that?
Why is it gzipped? It's because that creates a very small file.
But shipping gzip files in Node is something I don't see this in.
Not a lot of people do it, but it's totally doable. So I've done it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you check out the folder size of that, if you look at just the overall file size, it's less than 100. Less than 100 kilobytes.
Huh.
Check that out. Super small. That's all it is to have EcmaScript module support in Node. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so all that is I use Webpack, Uglify.js, and a slew of optimizations to inline and minify the code. And then I gzip the code, and I use an optimized gzip as well. So I use Zopfli.
Which then should be in here somewhere, right? Because
so here's the beauty of Zopfli. Zopfli can load with just the default Node gzip support. So by default, Node has support for gzip. You just use the zlib library.
Interesting.
There it is, zlib. Yeah, so I minify this just because the whole idea is that this should feel very native and should essentially look like a native component. So there's not a lot to go digging around it. It should just be like a DLL, essentially. You require it, and it gives you module support, which is why I've minified it and shrunk it down to almost nothing. I want devs to reach for this, and so a lot of devs don't like having a lot of dependencies.
Yeah.
One dependency is one too many. And so I've tried to make this one dependency as small as possible, so it's painless to include. It's not like Babel, or, by the way, I love Babel, but it's not like Babel that requires a lot of dependencies and it would be a significant load for production. This standardesm loader is meant for production. You can use this as part of your working module that you want to package in registry.
That is super, super cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Good job, man.
Yeah. And I'd say if you're into this, there's lots of options that you can check out. There's already support for Babel, for Ava, for Mocha. Webpack is adding support for the require flag. In the next release of Ava, which is a unit testing library, you can use standardesm instead of Babel. So then you can have a very small, quick testing environment.
Yeah.
And it's all this. The loader works with the established ways of loading code in Node. So the R flag is something that all of these utilities kind of support. Changing just your index file is all you need to do to add ESM support. So later on, if you did want to drop the EcmaScript module loader, all you'd have to change is your package.json entry point from index to main.
Yeah.
And then that's it. No more transition, which makes for changing it out in the future super painless.
I see a little revolution going on here, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty neat, huh?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, nice. I think we covered it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too.
Cool. So then I can say thank you for taking the time today.
Thanks for having me.
Super geeky stuff. I will read a little bit more when we finish the call then.
Okay, yeah. Feel free to hit me up with any questions you have too, or if there's bugs or packet or features you want to add, just let me know.
I will definitely do that. And yeah, apart from that, your Twitter handle or social stuff for people that wanna talk to you?
Sure. My Twitter is @JDalton. On GitHub, it's @JDalton as well. So
that is easy. Cool.
Yep.
Then thanks again, and I wish you a very, very great day today. And yeah,
all right.
See you around.
Thank you. See ya. Bye.